Yes, folks, hello, welcome once again to MoDXtra Games and Collectibles. I'm Chris, this is my channel. Absolute pleasure to have you with me here. And what kind of toy tuber would I be if I didn't produce some sort of end-of-year top list? And of course, this year has, much like the year before, been very heavily G.I. Joe classified series focused on the channel. It's the main line I'm collecting at the moment. I've picked up probably the vast majority of my collection purchases have been G.I. Joe classified series. The vast majority of my reviews have been G.I. Joe classified. So here it is, ladies and gents, boys and girls, the video you've all been waiting for. Here is my top 5, not 10, because everybody does 10 and I'm contrary, G.I. Joe classified series figures of 2024. Before we get into it though, very quickly, this list here that's just cropping up on the screen is all the G.I. Joe classified series figures that I picked up through 2024. Couple of notes on that. The first is that shipping is proper screwy around this line, and I've obviously received some figures here in the United Kingdom before my fellow Joe Bros around the world. So there's a couple on the bottom there that some folks will have as 2025 figs, but they're here for me in 2024. You'll also notice that I'm not a massive collector of variants or there's no Python Patrol on there, for example. So I'm only considering those that I bought. I think it's only fair that I consider those that I bought and picked up. So that's the list of figures I'm kind of launching this video off the back of. There you go. Just the small prints and caveats. And of course, as always, there's no rhyme or reason in terms of selection criteria. It's totally gut instinct and whims. I did sweat the list a little bit. Had some that went on the list and then came off, particularly down in the earlier numbers. And I realised, like last year and the year before that, when I did these top lists of G.I. Joe classified, that there's no sense at all to what I fall in love with or not fall in love with, for what reasons I find a figure particularly attractive or not. So it's all subjective, but I invite you and welcome you to head to the comments down below and share me your list as well. All right then. Your list with as little rhyme or reason also. You no need to explain yourselves. Right, let's get into it. Let's start at the bottom of the list with number 5. Number 5. Are they classified? Aren't they classified? Who knows? But the first on the list is from the Retro Card Back line, and it's Retro Scarlet. I'll confess, I've said this a few times on the channel before now, I flip-flop a little bit. Sometimes I really want that retro-looking, vintage-inspired nostalgia figure. Sometimes I want the Lenny and his design team's modern, contemporary, classified-ized reinterpretation of a character. Sometimes I want a mashup of them all, and this is definitely an instance where the nostalgia, I wanted the nostalgic look. Was never a fan of the original mainline classified eyes Scarlet. Didn't like the look, didn't like the aesthetic, didn't like the hair, didn't like the face sculpt, didn't like the shin pads, didn't like anything about it. But this one, just the minute I saw the digital render, I was like, yes, absolutely, give me that. I don't care how unrealistic and impractical that leotard is. I don't care how dumb the green looking trimmings and the green looking weapons are. The classified Scarlet really appeals to me, especially as someone who likes to try and recreate comic book scenes, who likes to try and recreate cartoon scenes in some of the photography and displays that I put together in this lean really well into that. I had a lot of fun playing around with some Action Force covers and trying to replicate them with my characters, and Scarlet hit the note exactly for me. So number 5 on the list, Retro Card Back Scarlet figure. Number 4. Number 4 on the list then, folks, is Road Pig. Somewhat of a Marmite figure in the line. I got the sense through the community at the time that he was a love him or hate him, a very polarizing kind of figure. The baby face, the sculpt with the pot belly kind of look and feel about him was unpopular with those who liked the more kind of original, muscular, meat-headed kind of look. But this appealed to me a great deal. Lots of great sculpting details. Really interesting to see another book in the line, another sculpt put together really, really well. Like the accessory selection, yes, there were flaws with, like the meat hook not being able to hold it properly and what have you, but it opened up a world of possibility and some interesting stuff. Also, I'm a big fan, made no secret of it, when G.I. Joe is a bit silly, doesn't take himself too serious. And this was a great example of a figure in the line where it is a bit silly, isn't taking itself too serious. And I like the little pocket areas of the G.I. Joe world, the intellectual property being explored, and the Dreadnoks is particularly one of them that I find very entertaining and interesting, with a lot of shelf presence. And Road Pig really added to that roster and gave it some more character, some more personality. And I think this is a figure with a lot of character and a lot of personality. And throw Raucous in the mix as well, and you've just got story to tell with your toys. So yeah, I realise a lot of people weren't a fan of him, but I love it. I love it when they get daft and silly, and this guy is daft and silly. Love it. Number 3. And while we're on the subject of Dreadnoks, number 3 is Torch for me. Loving that we've now got the original trio, the original Dreadnought trio. This guy's a great example where they've taken that vestigial, nostalgic remnants and ploughed him into the figure, but also touched him up and made him their own in terms of being a classified fig. Love the accessory selection, the way they put together the flamethrower and everything with the flame effects. I thought that was a nice touch. Really well sculpted, great texture details in there, interesting face sculpt, permanently attached sunglasses as well, which is a benefit and a drawback, but based on previous experience with Dreadnoks, we'll take it as a benefit with this one. Really interesting look, really interesting vibe. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Again, I love it when it's not just a military line where they're accepting and opening up these avenues into these weird and wonderful parts of the G.I. Joe universe, and the Dreadnoks really are one of the weird and wonderful parts of the G.I. Joe universe. So it appeals to me greatly. He looks good, and he's got that classic rocker looking vibe about him, which is obviously going to appeal to a guy like me who's a bit of a classic rocker himself. So Torch is my number 3. Number 2. Number 2 then, getting to the top of the list, we have Raptor. That's my second choice for my top 5. Look, I've said it already in this video. I'm into the balmy stuff. I like it when G.I. Joe is a bit silly, and there's nothing more silly than a guy dressed like a bird wearing a winged jetpack. It just appeals to my sense of silliness a great, great deal. It's got that little science fiction-y touch to it as well, and I don't even know how to articulate it. The figure is actually a bit of a faff. The figure's a bit of a faff and a bit of a fiddle to pose up, and it's not without its flaws. The mask is a bit shaky and difficult to articulate sometimes for some of the types of poses that I've tried to put him in. But it's just so much fun. It's just silly fun. And again, to reiterate, say what I said before, I love it when the line doesn't take itself too seriously. I love it when they lean into some of the cheesier, campier elements of things like the cartoon series, or in this instance, some of the campier elements of the comic book series. And I think we should have more of it. I think we should have more of it. Folks stomping around like stressing about the military accuracy and stuff, and then we've got a dude here dressed like a bird wearing a winged jetpack. It's just, they've got a little something for everybody. And Raptor is a little something for the wackier folks like me. Love it, yeah. And the backpack's really well, it's implemented really well. It's interesting. It's an interesting figure. I played with it a lot, and I've had it on display quite a bit since I received him. And all the other good stuff that you get with Classified. It's well sculpted. The feather effects in there. The face sculpt is interesting. I like his pistols. They've got a little bit of flair to them. Yeah, it works, All right, the claws are a bit shaky. Whatever. Raptor's daft fun, and that's what I want from my figures. I want to have fun with my man-child playtime, and Raptor gives me that in spades. In spades, in wings. No, that's not a saying. Anyway, number 2, Raptor. Number 1. And finally, we have number 1 in my selection. We've got the retro card-backed Cobra Commander. Yes, I was so pleased to see this guy coming out available to us peons who were unable to foot the bill for a HISS tank and get the Mickey Mouse era version. And while it seems a little bit of a faux pas to me that they've made this one better, I think, than the one that came in the HISS tank and more special, as someone who didn't pick up a his tag, I'm very, very pleased. My reasons are much the same, I suppose, as I said before with Retro Scarlet. Sometimes I want to be able to recreate my favourite scenes from the comic book. Sometimes I want to recreate my favourite scenes from the cartoon. And in order to do that, you need the more classic-looking figures. All right, it didn't come with a hooded head. We've got to let that go now, guys. I know some folks just will not let that go, but we've got to let that go now. Or just hang on till Fresh Monkey Fiction churn out their Crimson Moon, folks. But as far as the helmeted, face-masked version of the figure, this guy's is an absolute banger. Love it. I love the Vat Metal faceplate. I love the trimmings and designs. Again, it's got the usual stuff that I enjoy from Classified that adds to the experience, like the textured details, the sculpted details, the fine detail paint sculpts, paint apps in there and stuff. It just really adds to the experience. They made the right choice with the pointed finger hand swap as well. Just allows you to just really explore those scenes, do that storytelling with how you display him, how you photograph him and stuff, and how you play with him, of course. Got to get your man-child playtime in. And it really appeals to me, you know, the part of me that wants the more nostalgic aspects, the more vintage-inspired elements within my new modern 6-inch line that's going on right now, because it allows me to recreate those comic book covers and stuff that I'm really, really into. So overall, good figure, good accessory selection, and yeah, the Vat Metal alone. I love the Vat Metal. I can see my face. I'm looking at him right now. I can see my face in it. You know what I mean? Brilliant. There you go then, folks. There's my top 5. Nearly said top 10 then. We don't do 10s. I'm contrary. I'm doing a 5. Although I'm going to chuck a cheeky couple of honourable mentions, because if you're interested, those who nearly made it onto the list were Airborne, Retro Car Bat Duke, Doc, and the Iron Grenadier. They were the ones I was sweating in those lower numbers. I almost shunted Mutton Junkyard into this year as well. I got him right on the cusp of the new year. He arrived at Christmas time last year. But I didn't. So that was a pointless thing to point out. In any case, I think it's been an all right year for G.I. Joe Classified. I don't feel quite as bowled over as I did in 2023. I was really making the list at the end of 2023 was much harder than making the list at the end of this year. There's been a few more misses than hits that allowed me to eliminate some characters really, really quickly when it came to doing it. But as I mentioned before, I'm interested to know what your top characters of the year have been. So drop into the comments down below. Give me your top 3, give me your top 5, give me your top 7, whatever. The number doesn't matter. I'm just curious to know, and let me know a little bit of context as to why you love them so much. Looking forward into 2025. I think we've got some interesting stuff coming down the pipeline. So let's carry on this journey together, and I hope you'll stick with me, G.I. Joe Classified Series fans, for your reviews and the occasional bit of news when I can stay on top of things with the channel. That's it. Thanks very much for watching, folks. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great week. It's a special week this week, and I'll catch you next time. Probably in the new year now. So see you later. Ta-da!